Hello, Parsons Collab designed for literacy students. This is Marcos, and this is our very first week one to week two recap briefing video. And I'll be making these videos to help in each of your journeys through our class so that there's always a recap of what we did in our past class or a briefing on what's coming up and what's expected, repeating many things from what was said in the class, but also adding more details and sometimes showing more examples, and sometimes just checking in with you as a group and giving you encouragement so that you keep going and making your best work. But we had our first class last Thursday, and it was great. We're in the brand new build. Well, it's not brand new, but we're in the newer building, and we have a great class full of all sorts of great designers and creatives from different corners of the world, and got a chance to meet each other and talk a little bit, and went through our collab partner and went through our assignment. And in this briefing video, I'm just going to kind of redo all that in a quicker way and in a repeated way. But one thing that I didn't say in class that I want to make clear here right now in this video, and my former students know this, that with these videos, you are able to watch them as many times as you want. You're able to, you can skip ahead, you can pause, but one thing you cannot do, you cannot make it go faster so that my voice is talking really fast and I sound ridiculous. I will not have that, and that is something I am asking that each of you do. Listen to it at normal speeds. My voice sounds funny enough as it is, and I don't need you to hear me in that way and then look me in the eye after hearing how I sound in fast motion. But I'm not unreasonable, and if you're in a crisis or need a small portion quickly said, then if you do it, if you sin and do it, then you will owe me a chocolate bar, which is due upon the next class you come to. So this is the honor system. I don't want you putting me in fast motion, but if you do, I expect a full-on chocolate bar, full size, not fun size, full size. Hershey's with almonds is a preference, but it's up to you. But don't do it. Don't waste your money. They don't give me calories I don't need. Watch these videos at normal speed and watch them as often as you need. So let us dive into this. So in our class, we got to learn a lot, quite a bit. I talked quite a long time about our collab partner, Dirt, and Dirt being an endeavor that I've been doing and working on with my brother Ernesto for like 10 years, maybe not quite 10 years, something like that. And we have been working with students from Parsons and from a couple of other design schools in creating a collaborative effort to be advocates for not only literacy and the love of reading and the love of books, and more importantly, the love of stories, but also to specifically take on the challenges around early childhood literacy and the need for children from the earliest ages to right before they start school to be read to aloud together in a family setting, not only to prepare them for school and for life, but also to bring a loving connection and bond to families. And we think that that is an important endeavor that we want to pursue by working with design students to create books that can activate this kind of dynamic within families and young readers. And I'll talk more about Dirt coming up here, but first let's just kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the class. And this is just a review of what we talked about. And for those who missed class, no names, Daniel, you will be able to understand what's going on in class without having to ask me to go through it all. So as I said in class, we're going to be meeting on Thursdays, full classes, small groups, individual sessions sometimes, and it'll mostly be a synchronous normal class at our space. But there'll be times when we don't meet at our space. There'll be a couple of times we'll meet at my office in Dumbo, Brooklyn, for sure the last week of class. And then in the middle of the semester, we're going to have a photo shoot and a review a design review at my class simultaneously. So that'll at my office. So that'll be coming up in the middle of our schedule. And then there will be some asynchronous activities like you're experiencing right now is mostly the biggest part of it. These recorded lectures, these recorded briefings. Mostly, they're not really lectures, they're just reviews. I mean, there's one today, but there's just reviews on what we're doing and what you need to do next with case studies and assignment briefings. And but there also will be on the asynchronous time, there may be one or two, maybe three um, times where we will have one-on-one individual sessions. And with those individual sessions, I will see if you guys are interested in doing those. They'll be on a schedule, like 10 minutes per person, and I can see if people are wanting to come to class. I can open it up for that possibility, or we can just simply make it a online session. And the point of those sessions when we do them will not only be to do a review online and make it personal, even though it's a digital Zoom experience, but also to allow for maximum amount of time for the full class time to be time for working, for you to be working individually on your projects in whichever space you are, no traveling around to class and back. And it's going to be about doing that while having a 10-minute session with me and really gaining quite a bit from the class just by being focused in your own space. So those will be scheduled, a couple of those coming up. But yes, be on the lookout every week for the link that I'll email like you got today that has the latest YouTube posting, and we'll be doing that on a regular basis. And then in general, the class is broken up into three assignments and then the final review. So the first 5 weeks we're going to be working on our interactive reading experiences for babies and parents, which translates to baby board books. These are these short, small, square, hard books that are designed for infants, toddlers, and newborns that are also designed for the caregivers, the parents, the ones who read, the ones who activate the books in order to provide these first-time experiences and begin to develop the habits of reading together on a regular basis. And those will be the first thing we do, and we're going to get those books and our second assignment printed. And so there'll be a result that'll be tactile and tangible, but they'll be commercially printed. They're not going to be you're not going to need to go and set time and go to the printout center or whatever they call it and trim stuff up and print stuff out and fight with your fellow design students to get a printer or to get a trimmer or to get paper. It's all going to be done through on-demand printing sources. So that's maybe good news or bad news, but that's what we're doing here. And then our second assignment is going to be our storybooks, which will be about illuminating the story as a learning and sharing experience. And those storybooks are 8 by 10 soft cover books that are about creating a specific rendition of a story or adaptation of a story or even an original story if you choose to that have morals and lessons about life in a bigger way that teach about the nature of us as humans and the things that we have to face and be challenged with and overcome, whether they're culturally connected or they're just generally something that you consider based on the criteria of what Dirt is trying to say with their stories. But that'll be our second project, an 8 by 10 storybook. And then the last one will be a shorter assignment that just sort of bridges us to the final review day and gives us time to get our storybooks printed on time for that final. But that'll be a digital audio visual story that's meant to be viewed and experienced on an electronic device like a phone or an iPad. And that will be the activation of possibly one of most likely your storybook idea, and translate that into an audio visual experience with sound and narration and motion graphics at a limited amount, or as much as you want to do, but not meant to be super dynamic. But that will be something that will create an opportunity as well for you to do in a completely new, different story if you choose, or maybe there's something you wanted to do in the first two assignments that you didn't do, and now you can use it. So you have the opportunity to create potentially three different stories in three different formats. And then the final presentation will be a key day, the last day of the semester, where we'll all gather for a event at my office where we'll have guest reviewers and have a series of stations where you'll present to various people, two or three people, whether they're professionals, whether they're kids, whether they're moms, and be able to present your book and the process of it. So it'll be a great ending for the semester for all of us. Okay, so just as you know, the Canvas keep wanting to say Canva. Canvas has is the center for where the information for our class is kept, just like every other class at Parsons. And the syllabus is there. And most importantly, each week I will post the assignments on Canvas, the syllabus, and then the assignments will be posted week by week. Right now, there's part one, baby board book, research concept presentation, as well as a client brief that I have there as not a really official assignment, but just a place that if you want to read more about what Dirt is about in a very detailed way, you can go there. But in terms of the assignment briefing, it's also very detailed in terms of what you need to do, what the stuff we're talking about here, the stuff we talked about on class is all clearly written out there. And the thing that Canvas doesn't do, though, that's super important to know, besides showcase in detail what you need to do, like you see here as we scroll through the assignment brief. What it doesn't do is it's not a place where I'm going to be collecting assignments. Instead, I prefer to collect assignments via Google Drive in our own class Google Drive that I just shared with you this morning. You should have received a notification of that by email that you can now post your stuff into our class drive. And the baby board book part one folder is up there now, as well as a new one that you don't see now that says class resources. But the baby board book part one is where you will upload your assignment for Thursday's review. Okay, so as we get into trying to understand what it is we're doing and why we're doing it, this is a collab class, of course, and what that means and the value of that really in terms of you as young designers who are entering your second semester or third semester, second half of your third semester, no, your third year, second semester. Yes, I had it right. As juniors in your second semester, that's a better way to put it. You are really beginning to now look ahead towards the finish line, right? The finish line of your experience in design school at Parsons, or if you choose to end somewhere else. But basically, you're beginning to now enter the refinement stage. And what it means in the refinement stage is you guys have all learned so much already about how to design, and you've made things that are incredible and beautiful, and you know the process, and you're like refining your craft. And now it's going to be about really learning the next phase in that, and that is how do you work alongside or on behalf or in the benefit of another cause or another organization or another individual like me. How do you join a team and then become a contributor to that team, honoring what that brand is about, honoring what the message, what the voice, what the look of that brand expresses, while also contributing your own voice and message and design style within the work you do. So this collaboration with Dirt is going to be a perfect opportunity to do that because we for sure really are going to want to see what you have to say in terms of how you create the visuals and the voice for these stories, the imagery, the typography, the colors, the expression of it all. It's going to be all about you as almost as an artist. At the same time, you're going to be tasked to really understand what this brand is trying to do, who its audience is, what its vibe generally is, and how you can make your unique individual book fit into the story of Dirt overall and the many books that we saw in class together, and many more that weren't even shared. And how will you put your pieces into that mix and make something that's both unique to what you created, but also be something that is Dirt-ish and fits into the group as a unique piece that still has the same tone, message, vibe, and position as what we want to do as a brand. So what is Dirt? So Dirt is a project I've been working on for a decade now with my brother Ernesto, and he was the original source of coming up with this idea to create a brand that really advocates for knowledge in a way, for literacy, for what books have to offer in terms of how they help shape our understanding of the world and how they help us grow as people, as critical thinkers, and to not push back against the changing technologies, but maybe join in on it and create books that can be activated in different ways and that can still be honored in a way that lives up to its legacy, the legacy of books as being the most successful technology ever developed for learning. And maybe overall, maybe we can go up against the wheel, all right? The book and the wheel, which is more important. But for sure, the book is not only an important tool from antiquity and from the past and from all the learning that's taken place before the 21st century or the 20th century, but it's also still a vital piece of what we're going to need into the future. And that with the book really comes the idea of stories and storytelling and narratives, and how important it is that we all, as individuals from the earliest of ages, become armed with this kind of knowledge, that we get access to the learning from all those who came before us, and all the understanding, all the debating, all the ideas that were put forth and refined, and that we now have at our fingertips, whether it's from our phones and from AI or Google, or whether it was from reading an old-fashioned book. Like, all those things are a way to access that kind of information. And it's really Dirt's motivation to really want to push the idea that each of us has the responsibility to dive into what is it that is at the heart of our understanding of how the world works. What is it what is human nature about? What is reality about? And how do we go in collaboration with reality and participate in the creation? Like, we're all created, and how do we participate in that creation by expressing our voices, by participating in the narrative of our own lives as it connects to that of the world and our culture and our communities and our family. So Dirt was founded under those kind of like big ideas of really trying to do that. And how we've been doing that is through really going from creating some projects and at the start that were from people who are more sophisticated readers, and we've really just drilled down to the basics. Now we've come down to the basic experience of what it's like to begin life, and how important it is that you begin to engage in physically, not just verbally or not just visually, but engage with the idea of reading and the dynamic of reading together with your family. And that is at the sweet spot of what we're doing and at what we want you guys as designers for Dirt to take on as your mission. The idea that this could be the atmosphere, or this will be the atmosphere, and that will be what your projects are meant to be in, with kids, with families, with grown-ups, with voices, with movement, with action, and with overall, and most importantly, with this like feeling of love and caring and understanding that's really vital for the development of every single one of us. And that dynamic can follow through to older ages and even into the idea that we want to be able to provide this kind of priority, this experience, these books to both families who make it a priority, who have the means, who purchase books, who do that automatically, to those who don't do that and try to find ways to connect with families and communities that could use access to books, or that could use inspiration towards reading, so that all people, no matter who they are, have the opportunity to become lifelong readers and who identify as learners in the like deepest and simplest ways. So that's what we want our books to be doing. So our story really went around the idea of like discovering and working with students and making it part of my classes, creating kind of a Dirt Collab lab environment, and also utilizing my design firm Toda as a place for internships and for working on Dirt, its branding, its marketing, and working with students who come from my class, who then become interns and work further with me. But we started with this idea that on-demand printing was the technology that allowed us to be able to create just one book or 10 or two or whatever, and literally not have to publish a big run of print run, which is typically how it used to be with printing. It still is, but there's a type of printing now that it's digital, it's online, it's on demand, and we can design books here in our class, send them off to an online on-demand printer, and get our printed books back within a week or two. And we started doing that with connecting with the idea of intellectual property that's in the public domain, meaning stories from the past that are old enough, about 75 to 90 years old, from the past, that uh, don't have a copyright anymore because they become in the public domain because they've been around for so long. Like the Happy Birthday song is not owned by anybody because it's so old. So those stories like Dracula or Frankenstein or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or Treasure Island or Wizard of Oz. Like, they're all books that are like vital, important, and part of our culture. And our first step in creating collaborations with students was to work with students to redesign the covers and create a studio process where students understood what these stories were about, how they connect to us in contemporary life, how it connects to the 21st century young person, and then create visuals that reflect and make these books appear to be more meaningful and more connected to audiences of today. And so that was our start. And then we started creating short story books that were meant to be much more digestible, quicker to read, and introduce students into classic stories like Telltale Heart and others that were fully designed on the inside. There were pages, illustrations, type, everything from cover to back was designed, not just the covers, but the full book was designed. And then we went even younger and created what will be your second assignment, which I'm showing here, which is a 8 by 10 color storybook. And this as well is a cover to back, fully designed inside out. And these are stories that each student would select, starting from a prompt of like looking at a list of stories that are in the public domain, whether they're Western fables and fairy tales, or whether they're myths or folklore from other cultures, from a variety of cultures, or whether they're stories that each student individually may have heard or been told, and just to find the right kind of story to pick to build from. And sometimes that means like you're seeing here, the little half chicken, like taking a story and modifying it in a way that makes sense for today. Or it might even mean taking a story like this and then using it as a prompt to develop a new story under the same kind of premises. So we'll talk more about that as we get into that project, but really that led us towards this idea of really then focusing in on this mission of, okay, early childhood literacy is important. I learned through a client of mine that a really just devastating stat that if you do not read from the very beginning, like you see here on the left side, if you do not begin this habit and continue reading together on a regular basis, it doesn't matter what it is or how often, it just daily or consistently having time together, interacting with books, reading it out loud, putting it in their hands. All those things are so important to cognitive development, as well as developing just really important, loving family bonds. If that's done on a regular basis, kids are prepared when they start school in kindergarten, they're ready to go. But if it is not done on a regular basis, then kids are significantly behind, and it becomes very difficult to succeed or not to succeed, but to reach your fullest potential as easy as it could if you had this experience. So we really latched onto that and said, okay, we want to have this be our mission. And with that, we thought, well, what would be a way to take our books into even a younger age? And we saw this potential with the baby board book, which is our first assignment, which we're seeing here. And we just basically came up with a concept, what would be the essential two books that every kid should start off life with? And so we thought, well, the letters and the numbers. So we created the little letter book, the little number book, and went through and used that as a form uh, of creating a new and different level of book that we want to offer. And we began to put this into our class at Parsons, and this is from the first year we did it, really trying to create books that inspire this ritual of being together with a book in hand, and also calling on each of the parents, the loved ones who deliver these books, who narrate the books, who tell the stories, who are the ones in charge of the experience, really making sure that they have something that they can inspire them to pick up, that can get them to understand that they bring a lot of the content of the book and the way they read it or the way they express or expand upon each of these books. And I want you guys to be thinking about that with your very first assignment, which will be these baby board books. This is our last year's class, and it's just like it's such a great opportunity to become a full author of a book, because you're going to develop the concept, you're going to develop the story. I'll say that loosely because it doesn't necessarily have to be a story. It's just more an experience. And the theme maybe is the first thing you develop. Like, what's this? What are the things you're trying to communicate in this? And then you're going to create the visuals, and together we'll get these designed and sent off to a digital printer, and they'll get back to us in a way where we'll have these books at the finals. This is a view of just kind of some of the class activities outside of school, which will be the mid semester meeting at my office, where we will have a photo shoot so that each of you have portraits of yourselves to go into the storybooks, as well as doing a review session with just not just me, but also with part of Dirt's team, Demi, which is up there in the top right picture, she's my daughter, but she's been working with Dirt as well as my other daughters for a long time, and she's a kindergarten teacher and just has been doing these critiques for many, many years, and will be an excellent person to check in in the midterm to get a perspective outside of like a designer perspective, but instead get a professional educator perspective and give you guys good leadership on that. And then for the finals, we'll come back on the last day of class to my office again and have another similar session, but this time um, we're going to have several teams of critiquers including students from past classes, including like design professionals who are my friends who used to work for me in the past, who have done it for many years, and as well as young people, children like you see here, and moms, and just different setups of people that will give you a chance to kind of round robin around and get feedback on and tell the story of your process for each of your books and show them the physical books and really see get feedback on those results. So that last class will be an exciting time, and you'll all leave class with two books in your hand and a digital story in your pocket. And I think that's just the main part of this, that I want you guys to see this class as a chance to really take on a project that most likely you didn't come to Parsons to do, right? To create some children's books. And maybe you'll never even do something like this again, but this is a chance for you to do something unique and different, and then to really have the potential for this to become something that ends up in the hands of families. But most importantly, it ends up in your hands, it ends up in your heart, and you end up seeing that you have the potential to take on a challenge that's outside of what you've done before, and bring it to life in a way that's kind of beyond all our expectations. So I'm going to work with each of you guys to make your projects be as great as they can be, and it'll be a fulfilling experience for all the results we're going to see and share together. And we'll do that step by step like we're doing already. We've dove into our first assignment, and let's get into that, and let's look at the overall landscape. So this is just a quick snapshot of what you're going to be doing from the perspective of like one student who took on this class. So this is the assignment one, is the baby board book. As you can see there, it's like a hard book that's a small square book that's like, I forgot, the 20 pages or something like that. And then there's the children's storybook, which is longer, and it's 8 by 10, and it's like 36 to 48 pages, like depending on how long you make it. So those two books will be the printed books, and the third one is an audio visual ebook or electronic book. And that one is designed to either be a spin-off of your baby board book, like you see it was done with this one, or it could have be from your children's storybook. This could have been The Great Flood on the right there, or it could be a completely different story if you have the time and the ambition to make that story into a digital book. Because the key will be that it's a shorter amount of time. So if you want to build on the assets you've already made for one of your books, then that would be smart. But it's not that you can't do something different for assignment three. Okay, so with the baby board books, we're going to dive into this because this is going to be the assignment that we're working on right now and that you guys are in the middle of conceiving. And this is the assignment. This is one of the examples I showed in class, and really looking at this as a great, simple rendition of a book concept that came to life in a really great way. It's not that your book has to be this simple, or it has to be about vegetables, or it has to be yellow. Obviously not. But I think what this does is just show. I start off with this to show that what we're trying to do here can be ambitious, but doesn't have to be overwhelming. And a book like that really just takes on a concept of bringing vegetables into this like crazy, wacky family, call them the yummies, and then just showcase each one by one with their name nice and big, and with these kind of funky illustrations of this wacky family in a little bit of this kind of punk rock way, which again is like trying to reflect this brand being a little bit off center from what you expect in a kid's book, and being a little bit of a wild card in terms of its aesthetic, really trying to connect to like the parents as well, and not creating these aesthetics that are really like dumbed down kids aesthetic, and instead they're sophisticated from a kind of a Parsons design perspective. Um, and then, so that's the framework in general. And let's talk a little bit more about like how do we strategically make sure that our approach to creating these books is founded on a good data. And as I talked about in class, this is the time right now where you're looking for an insight. You're learning about what we're doing here. You're learning about the potential of how books can inspire learning and inspire reading time. And you're just trying to find some kind of insight that you can grab onto and then make that the theme of your book, and then have that insight lead into the design of your piece and the full development of it. So while I'm talking here, think about like what are things that are sticking out to you that are insightful that could become something that's the building block for creating a concept. So building brains with books. And here it's just really important to know that when kids are born and they're at the earliest of age, like first weeks and first months, their bodies and mind like grow significantly. Uh, and in the first years, their brains grow more rapidly than their body in the very first year. Like you see so much change in a baby from the day she's born or the day he's born to its first birthday. It's like incredible. And what's even more incredible is that what's going on in development of their brains is even more advanced than that. There's more progress made in their cognitive growth. So knowing that there's so much going on that it's just makes it so clear why having this kind of interaction, learning, loving experience is important. So right from birth, babies should be read to on a daily basis, at least 15 minutes per day. Um, and that's something that, in terms of your search for insight, like, okay, I need to come up with an idea that could be repetitive. And maybe there's something in my idea that causes it to be a daily thing because of the nature of the concept, or maybe the 15 minutes is the thing. You can say, okay, I'm going to grab on the 15 minutes. I know that Andy Warhol said in the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. So maybe there's a 15-minute book or something like that could be the insight. And I'm not saying that's a good idea. It's kind of wobbly, but that's a good example of what I want you to be searching for when we talk. All right. So in terms of like understanding the stages of kids that are going to be within the target audience for what your book is about, or the target user. There's a newborn who's just the first 2 months, they're the newborn. And then after 2 months into the first year, they're an infant. And then after the first year to year four, they're the toddler. So it's all kind of similar things, but you can see just even in the illustrations how different the person is and what the level of understanding, the level of participation is. So it's going to be up to you to see the different ranges of what's going on here and say like, okay, I want my book to be up for all these people. And you don't have to limit it to anybody, but you might think, okay, I do want my book to be for older kids, and I'm going to specifically do that. And that's okay. I'm just going to declare that this is like, you must understand what's being read out loud, and that matters. And that's okay because you can read to a kid who is 0 to 2 months and they don't have to understand. They won't understand no matter what you write. But I think you can say, like, I want mine to be really for younger people or in the middle. Like, think about that as being a way to help build your insight or help build the target you're trying to make for your individual book. So, in those first 12 months, just know that, like, really a lot of things that are going on are really just about basic things like sounds, words, and feelings. It's not going to be about like learning the letters, it's not going to be about learning the numbers, it's not going to be about pronoun. It's just this this more abstract world that you're trying to connect to as a parent, and for the child to experience these different words without having to feel like they understand what they are, and also to understand how the feelings they're experiencing, and beginning to like introduce them to what those are, what they mean, and why they're okay to have. And then being a little connected to how it is that we see as babies and what limitations or opportunities that vision has. So a baby has to learn to see. It's not something we don't just like, aren't born and suddenly we see just like we see right now. It has to be learned and understood. And baby's birth and age 3, many of a baby's vision skills will develop just in those first 3 years. I mean, so it's not even, I thought it was 3 months. It's 3 years. So it takes a while for this to really fully connect. So during the first 4 months of life, your baby should begin to follow moving objects with his or her eyes and reach for things. So if you want to create a book that has something to do with pointing or something to do with showing things, like that could be an insight, that part of your insight to go around that idea. And then for the newborn, the 0 to 2 months, begin to read aloud to a newborn right after birth. Why is that good? Like they don't understand. Like what? I'm going to wait till they understand some English before I start. No, that's not the approach, because what's important is the establishing a nurturing family routine. And that routine is what the baby's going to learn to expect and to love and to have it be a time where it feels understood and safe and can grow in its cognitive abilities. So it's about helping a baby feel safe and loved and beginning a routine that will help a baby be ready for school and more importantly for life. So within the first 2 months, babies at 1 to 2 months love to see faces and make emotional connections with people. They listen, they feel. Babies love books with real pictures and bold contrast. At that age, reading aloud should be slow, exaggerated. So you can have you don't have to have long sentences. You don't have to have sentences at all. You can have just one word per page. So infants 2 to 5 months, babies begin to verbally respond through cooing sounds. So now that you're getting starting, after 2 months, you're starting to get feedback. You're starting to get participation from the baby through cooing sounds. And by practicing their sounds while reading together, babies figure out which sounds are important to learn to talk. So they hear you, they repeat, they reply. There's an insight for maybe something you want to be doing. It could be a book of broken words. Like there's no, there's just a book of sound words that they're not full on words that somehow you make those a fun feature that you have the parents say out loud with illustrations somehow that's connect in some way. I don't know, but that kind of thinking is what can get you towards a concept that's solid. Also, just in terms of just some physical things, teething begins as early as 2 months. Infants will enjoy holding, turning, and tasting sturdy board books. And as I said in class, that was an opportunity to give an example of what an insight could be like. So if you learn this, it's like, oh, so at 2 months they're interested in like chewing on things. So maybe I'll make my book called Bite Me. And Bite Me, I don't know what it's about, but it's got a great title, and it can have that kind of like sort of edginess that Dirt kind of wants to have within the kid space, while also being fun and silly. And I invite any of you to take Bite Me and make your book theme. If you get if you can't think of anything, do Bite Me. All right, so infants 5 to 12 months. From 5 to 9 months, babies will regularly say words like mama, dada, baba, and more. Babies are practicing their consonants and new sounds to help them talk. And then from ages 9 to 12 months, babies will start to put their ku vowel sounds and babble consonant sounds together to make words. So it's at that earlier months within the first year is when the connection of vowels and consonants and the attempt to make words can start to begin for some kids, and they're not all the same. They get at different levels, but that's generally what happens. And then when it comes to vocabulary, that's a key part of what this early reading daily can do. It can provide access to this world of words, and reading aloud is important in developing a baby's vocabulary. So the books you select when reading together should go beyond favorite books with selections made that provide new words and experiences. So you might say that like, okay, for me, and the insight I want to pull is that vocabulary is the thing I want to be one of my main goals, and I'm going to fill my book with so many words, and I'm going to give the deliverer of the book, the mother, the father, the grandparent, the brother, the sister, to just a bunch of words that they can say and access and somehow connect in a fun way. I don't know the full idea there, but you kind of get the general idea, like as a goal, like to build a potential concept around the idea of like being a strong vocabulary book. All right, so what are the benefits of sharing books with children? So they provide sensory stimulation in support of brain development. It helps them develop language, vocabulary, impart knowledge of how the world works. Like that's something that's going to be more important with our storybooks and books older than that. So this might be something that's very minor, but that is always a goal of Dirt, is to know that we're trying to provide uh, an understanding that the world is greater than any of us, and there is the good, the true, and the beautiful beyond who we are, and that life can be transcendent if we pursue that. And I want that to be something that you guys keep in mind as you make these baby board books, that we're not coming from a materialist perspective where randomness created the world. We're not coming from the perspective that life is meaningless or that truths are out there for anyone to choose from. We're coming from the idea that there's the opportunity for us to understand the world in a bigger way because of what's outside of us, what has created us, and how we can be in collaboration with the maker of all things. So please, that is what Dirt believes in, and I want you guys to adapt that mindset for this project, for these projects, and know that we're trying to promote a sort of transcendence in the way that we express ourselves with a positive look at the world, but also a realistic one that knows that there's a darkness of the world that we must be ready for. All right, so create, that was too much, sorry. Create a joyful and loving connection between babies, toddlers, and their loved ones. So that one's got the little sirens going off on that one. Yeah, that's important. We're here to try to make that love. We're trying to connect a loving experience. Don't get all caught up in the idea that I'm going to teach them the numbers of the letters. Obviously important, but no, I'm going to teach them that they are loved and they are in a safe place with their family, with their mother, with their father, with whoever it is that's loving them. And that's the key to this book. It's a way to activate that. It's a way to nurture a love of books and reading as well. So for them to make the connection with that feeling and with the physical technology of the book, if a kid can make that connection and know, like, and whenever I read, I learn and I feel better and I feel loved, that will be a huge thing that you can do with your book in terms of changing someone's life. All right, so when it comes to subject matters we talked about in this class, there's a list of subject matters here. And it's not a matter of picking one of these, it's a matter of like this is a starting place. And I also encourage you to maybe try to take them and if you simply start connecting one to another, shapes and animals, sounds and places, you can begin to, if you just start doing that, faces and people, letters and places, whatever it is, you can maybe say, oh, there's an insight there, there's a unique opportunity, and I can show you what that means just by showing you some these examples. These are the ones we looked at in class, and I will have these the ones that we did in class at the end of this video as a bonus video if you want to see them again, or if you missed class, to have me show you them but for a second time. But before that, I'm going to show you ones that we didn't see in class that are similar but just different books. So this one here is called Yummy Travels, and I'm going to be actually using this book in our assignment as an example as it gets developed. So it may be good to show this, but this is, you can see that the insight here is that food and cultures around the world, right? So two things put together, and then simply also taking the idea that I want that I, as the designer author of this book, Yummy Travels, I recognize the importance of having a parent be motivated to read to a child. And sometimes we don't want to read that goofy, silly book that kids love. And this is a chance to read to a young child who's not gonna have anything to say about which book because they're so young. But this is a book that it actually shows places to go and food that are from those places that would be really interesting and enticing to the millennial or the older Zoomer parents. And so that's the strategy here. It's kind of like I want the parents to want to read this book. Whoops, what happened? So let's go through it here. I should have clicked it. So as you can see, it's a self cover. Each spread introduces simply, it's just repeat, right? There's the dish on one side, the country and what it's called, and there's a number 1, 2, 3. So it's growing in number. So it's a counting book as well for dim sum. And then again, as you're seeing the illustration and the page kind of flip every spread, so it's a little bit different. So just this is none of the students in this class like you are illustration majors. It's all about like using the skills you have and creating a book that's going to become interesting, simple, beautiful, well designed with this little global kind of plate. So yeah, so that's Yummy Travels. And then this next one is more about had the student really wanting to maybe connect with the older kid when they can begin to understand what it's saying, or even when they're not, it still matters. But this is kind of a book that helps encourage kids to believe in who they are and how and what potential they have and how they're loved and just build self-esteem, build an understanding of their place in the world and how they can be unique and different and beautiful, and just really be a great affirmation experience towards positive feelings and again, also counting on the parent, the deliverer of the story, to really bring the love to this and to bring it in their voice and the way they hold their kids and the way they use their expressions and just really, really, really build the kids' confidence, which is so key. And this next book, if you want to take it a little bit of a deeper level, this student had an insight that she really loved the song Rain, Rain, Go Away. Like, rain, rain, go away, come on back another day. Except she took a twist on it and said, Rain, rain, don't go away. And then she used that as her theme because she loves rain. She just wanted to go away. And so she showcases like the whole going outside in the rain experience, connecting it to what the benefits of rain has to do in a bigger sense, like with plants and animals and insects and bugs, and connecting the whole water experience with like having an experience at home, taking a bath, and the importance of that. And parents appreciate that. We got to get them in the bath every day. And then also connecting it, of course, to the rainbow, the symbol of anyway, let's not get into that. And then so that's another way of looking at how to approach a book. And then this next one is takes the planets and takes the Earth and kind of makes it a little family of friends. So a giant floating rock, and it introduces kids to Earth from the perspective of space, and then from the perspective of our galaxy, and the friends that we as Earth share, and with our planets and with the sun, the oldest of our friends, and the closest of our friends, the moon, and then going through with each spread and utilizing the spreads in the best way. Um, and then going more micro with the rocks and the seas and the oceans and kind of in a science meets poetic way, introduce kids to the bigger world that's outside the doors of where they're from. That's great. I love that. I haven't seen that in a while. And then also, if you do want to get more tactical and more kind of educational, I'm not against that. So this is really about like helping kids put words together. So baby says monkey and then monkey, and then it says baby says panda, panda. So it's like a great way to kind of break words up. And then also, again, it's about like having these sophisticated drawings of animals and nice typography and good colors and really not just wanting to connect to the child, but to connect to that parent who will want to have this book in their home, who will want to have it in their hands, who will appreciate the aesthetics, and who will feel good about like being a parent because they're showing their books with a brand that has a deeper understanding of what kids' books should be and how they fit into a bigger picture around the lives of these families. So that's Baby Says, and with a nice use of typography where illustrations are integrated into them. All right, and this other book is very simple and I wouldn't say philosophical, but kind of before and after, kind of showing this idea of consequences of time, and really just in such a simple way. I think there's no words in this thing. There's an egg, there's a broken egg, there's a honey hive, a beehive, and a honey pot. And it just repeats. It goes through and shows kind of like consequences of how things can change from solid to liquid. It's kind of science, right? And even, what happens when you take something and live up to what it's meant to do, which is a juice box being drunk into the last drop, or the idea of the miracle of seeds becoming a plant. There's so many things to learn about, right? And this is just such a simple way to put together the idea that you can bring things together in the kitchen and create something that's yummy out of things that are unrelated. And here you can't really see it, but on the right side, shape of the there's the shape of that lamp, except it's kind of a varnish. It didn't show up, but it's there. So okay, so that's that. So although there's more, that's not it, but I'm not going to go through them all. But you can see the rest of these on my YouTube channel where you're watching this. There's a what's it called? A folder with these in them, a playlist. And there's 27 videos there. But also on the Google Drive, you can just go and click them directly on MP4s. If you go to class resources, book board page, book page through movies. I got it. And in there are a bunch of videos the ones I'm showing you and more that you can click through and get a view at your own speed. All right, so we're going to get into the assignment here. So this is going to be a book we're going to make. It's going to be 5 and 5/8 by 5 and 5/8. You don't got to worry about that right now. It's going to be 16 pages, self-cover. That's going to mean that 2 of the pages are the front and the back, leaving 14. That means 7 spreads, and that's it. There's no more, there's no less. It has to be 7 spreads. You have to make your story work in that. Colors, the same thing, 4-color process. You can print things into any color you want, but we're not going to do gold. We're not going to do a mirror. We're not going to die cut things. We're not going to do pages that open up. It's going to just be all simple printing like you've been seeing And don't see that as a bummer. That's like a limitation that you now need to design around. And that's limitations are what bring innovation. So see that as your friend. So for next week, you're all working now on creating a presentation deck that showcases your research and your concept statement. You're going to present dirt and the assignment. In the first couple of pages, you're going to showcase three examples of existing baby board books or baby books or generally kids books. You're going to give examples of books you've seen and talk about what you like about them and how they might inform your book. And then you're going to present some inspiration design mood boards on illustration styles, on typography, on color. And then you're going to write a concept statement with one or two or three, if you have them, ideas of what your book could be about. Just written, no design. Just don't come to me with the design. Don't come to me with illustrations. That is not allowed. I'm not allowed. No, no, no. I will close my eyes. I don't do a lot. Don't run ahead. Don't make that amateur mistake. Run ahead. This is a collab class. So right now it's just about taking in, expressing back, and having an idea that you can talk about verbally. Okay, and visually with inspiration. Do even if you got an idea, save it, hide it, don't show it. This is don't do it. I will not like it. Okay. Okay, so here's an example. This is create a style. Make sure it's a nice neutral style. Don't get all creative on your presentation. I want it to be boring, like more beautifully boring, functional. Okay, she's got brown. Okay, no problem, brown. Explain who dirt is. Just do it. Talk about it, talk about the assignment. Just I want this to be an assignment, a thing that if somebody was not part of this class, if I sent it to them, or if I had amnesia and 10 years later I came and looked, I would understand what's going on because I know the whole story read from top to finish. Don't just dive into your thing. Then showcase your research with the book, with visuals of the book on the right, with bullet points on the left. Repeat that 3 times. Okay. And don't worry if somebody else does your book, it doesn't matter. Um, and then research some inspiration for visuals. And again, you're looking for something that you are inspired by, that you think is cool, that you think fits your concept, that you think fits the aesthetic both of connecting to a kid and connecting to a young parent, but also that you can do, that you know how to do, that you're able to do. And now I'm not against you learning something, and in fact, I encourage that. Like, don't just rely on your old uh, style. I mean, not, I shouldn't call it old style. Don't, you can do your style and you can maximize that and bring it to this book. I would love that. I'm not against that at all. But if you want to try something different, I'm not against that either. I'm just against biting off more than you can chew and creating something, a style of something that's going to take way longer than you thought and then keep you from finishing on time. So just be careful with that. Typography, colors, show that. And then it's going to be about bringing the concept into words and just saying what you want to do. So in this one, it's like this person's like, I want to do breakfast foods. And I'll just read what she says. Breakfast is a fun and easy way for kids to learn about the exciting world of breakfast foods. The most important meal of the day. With this book, infants and toddlers begin to learn about the bright colors and fun shapes that breakfast foods come in. They can start to become familiar with a croissant, unique shape, a contrasting color of eggs, using simplified, somewhat flat but textured style of illustration. Breakfast foods will illustrate basic breakfast foods and colors that are associated with them. Breakfast foods could continue into a series of lunch foods and dinner foods. So fantastic. All those words I just read out loud gave each of us all we need to hear and visualize in our own heads what this could be. It doesn't even matter what the style is so much, although they did describe it, but it's based on a smart insight about what we do every day as humans, and we eat and we eat typically in 3 stages, and so breakfast is the first one, so that's the first book. I love that she's thinking ahead to other books, lunch and dinner foods. That's a cool way of thinking about it as well. So this is all we need to do, because when we're in class, I want to be in on this. I don't want you to like show me the next page where it's designed, because I mean that is cool too. But for this week, it's enough. It's enough for you guys just to get this far. And of course, as we talk about in class, and as I will repeat as a theme for this class, always end with a thank you. Always end with gratitude. Begin with it too, but end with gratitude. Okay, so um, this to show you, I think this is going to be the breakfast book that you just saw. Spoiler alert. So we're going to use this as I think it's this one as an example in our future assignments, but this just shows the result of that concept after weeks of working on it. Here's what it ends up looking like. And you can see it's got like this very simple um, vector style of illustration, and then the dynamic type that's that's moving around just as a nice touch. And then that kind of fancy scripty text as a subhead that works great too. And the colors thoughtfully put together based on the food, obviously. But it's just like, selecting the right foods. And gotta have that bowl of cereal. That's awesome. So yeah, and then on the back, it's a chance to like give a little preview text of what's on the inside. All right, so for the book research deck, you're we did everything I just talked about. Your first step is to design your book is to create a concept presentation that showcases your research, design inspiration, outlines in words your proposed design concept. Research existing board books and collect examples of books that you find interesting and effective pieces, which you see as influential towards what you want your board book concept to be. Create showcase pages on your presentation deck with 3 total book case studies with 1 book per page. Okay, this is too much to read. So basically, you're gonna okay, next start to define your concept process by researching and collecting design inspiration, imagery, research layout, variety of design executions, illustration examples that represent potential strategies and tactics. How might you want to approach your book? Show those mood boards, and then use sites like use visuals outside of typical children or educational visuals. Like go to the design go to Pinterest and under design examples, go to designinspiration.net. Like, I don't want you to think that you're supposed to dive into the world of kids and then come up with a bunch of bad drawings that other kid authors make. No, 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 no. Find illustrations that are cool, that have nothing to do with kids, that can be applied to the kid world. That's the key here. Like, we are bringing a different aesthetic. It's still friendly to kids. It's still effective in communicating, but it's a higher level of communication that is not offered typically in kids' book. That's the sweet spot. All right, so all the pieces, you saw them. Here's the list in case you need a list. Okay, that's it for the main part. If you want to go ahead and move on, go right ahead. But if you want to be reminded of the books that we looked at in class, I'm just going to run through them really quickly, just as a reminder. This is our bonus section, so say what, like great title. The insight here is what sounds do animals make and how can we communicate those simply with the restriction that we put on ourselves, which is typography and with a little bit of like indices of what signs of the animal being there in the past on around the page. Brilliant, right? And the animals are within the type within the bold type, but it's a little bit of a mystery. You have to kind of guess and figure out what it is. Just really well executed, nice white cream kind of color, attractive cover, attractive name. That's one. Yeah, that's a winner. So if you can make it that simple and that great, you've got it. Here's another one, Shape of the World. Basically, we take the idea of like introducing kids to objects in the world that are familiar, like homes or animals, and using basic shapes to construct those, in a formula, in a math formula. There's like a little text that's out. Let's buy a ice cream cone, and we use this kind of crayon thick pencil black line to add in the plus and equals and also to enhance the shapes to complete the visual of how these items are made out of shapes and not making it too abstract. Not if you took away that black uh, drawing over those 2 shapes of the tulip, I'm sure you can argue in a segue that this is a tulip, but no, you want to draw it in there because you don't want to make it too hard for people. So yeah, so that's another great idea. Another one here is how do you feel? And this is about taking the idea of feelings and animals and connecting them together and creating a world of animals based on a certain style of drawing that's consistent, that brings these different characters. And each animal has its own unique kind of feeling that it's showcasing from being happy or sad or angry. And also reflecting back the idea that it's okay to be these things. It's okay to have these feelings throughout the day as a kid because that's the reality of life. And just does a great job of kind of doing that in a simple, fun way. Um, and then this is another one that takes an experience of going to the grocery store and brings it into this other world of this little blobby kind of character who goes to the grocery store and sees these familiar things. And this is obviously for an older kid, but it can be for a younger kid too. I take it back. It can be for any age. But older kids can understand it more in terms of like, yes, we go to the grocery store and I see those things. And bringing in color and illustration and just going through the aisles of this grocery store in a way and just learning about these things And this nice little challenge at the end is kind of a nice way to end by having them showcasing a bunch of things. And here's where you can pause and stop without any words. You can now let the deliverer of the book take over and start pointing at things, and you can spend 10 of the 15 minutes right there in that last spread talking about those different pieces and in the produce section. And this is another great one that we looked at where it's really about focusing on the on getting the parent to have a good experience and learn something. And this monster book takes us through these different mythological or maybe real monsters that different cultures know about and fear or honor in whatever way. And just takes us through these different parts of the world, and we say hello to these different known mythological or real monsters or mysterious creatures that lack explanation. And they go from all four corners of the world. It's just so nicely designed, right? It's still kiddish, but it still connects in a sophisticated way to the parents and allows for learning at both levels. Just really hits the target there. I think this is excellent. Um, is that it? Okay, one more, or maybe there's more. This one also kind of tries to connect with parents and provides a story about different kinds of flowers and says that they're speaking, they have something to say, they mean something, in other words, like they introducing to the names of them and on the bottom there's a little line of text that gives you the idea of what the flowers stand for or the plants stand for in terms of the kind of meaning that culture has put on them. So that some of that little line is for the parents more than it is for the kids. And for the kids, the bigger text at the top takes you through that kind of more fun and accessible story about each of these plants and why they're part of the plant world and how they help us in our daily lives. So yeah, okay. Oh my goodness, wait, we already did before and after, so we did that. Okay, there's more. I said this was bonus. Yummy colors. Colors plus fruit equal yummy colors, right? See that? That's how you take it. Two things, simple. So let's learn about colors with food. We got the open mouth, and then we start with the color on one side, and then all the vegetables and fruits that are in that color on the other side. And guess what's going to happen next? They're going to repeat. You know what's going to happen in the next spread, don't you? It's going to be a new color in a new set of fruits and vegetables. And of course, there's highlights of different colors within each of them or different tones of those colors. So you got to make it interesting. Don't let your idea like dictate your design to be boring. Make your rules, break your rules. Not that any rules are broken here, but they're made in a way that they're flexible. And yeah, it's like there's no debate. And there's a great thing is that there's all these other fruits and vegetables in there that give you the chance as the reader to go in there and start identifying them or start quizzing. Like, can you see the cucumber? You know, where's the banana? And so it's more than just what the words have to say on the book cover. It's what the reader can do. Okay, we made it. We made it after the first video. I promise not all videos will be this long. This is just the first week of class, so we have to like cover a lot of stuff. Okay, go back to work or enjoy the rest of your weekend or the rest of your week, depending on when you're watching this, and be ready on Thursday. Meet in class, be on time. Have your presentation deck, a PDF, a Google slide, a PowerPoint, Canva, horizontal big, well-designed presentation that you can take through. Please remember, you're going to follow the steps I gave you on the assignment. Remember what I said in class, and I'll say it here again for the sake of those who weren't in class, that the way that I'm grading here is I'm grading really on how well you participate and how well you listen to instructions and how well you follow through those instructions. Do I care how cool your design looks? Yes. Do I want your designs to be better than they can be, the better than expected? Do I want them to be at the highest level? Of course. Is that necessarily the biggest part of, I'm not, it's not a beauty contest. I'm not gonna, the best looking design isn't going to get the A, and then the second best looking is going to get the B. No, it has to do with what you do in your class in terms of following through on what I ask you to do. So every week, I want you to have your assignments posted on the Google Drive, just as I asked them with the components I wanted. That will get you an A. And remember, I'm an A making machine. There is an A making machine out there already hummed up. It's starting to make your A. So if you show up with class next week and you don't skip and you have your thing posted and you show everything I asked for, as I asked for it, the A making machine is going to keep building even faster. If something's missing, it's going to start getting wobbly. Don't make the A making machine get wobbly. Make sure you keep feeding the A making machine what it needs to make that beautiful golden A that's going to come out at the end of the semester. If you just keep feeding it the things that I tell you to do and do them as good as you can on time and follow through and participate and give feedback and laugh at my jokes, that'll get you the A at the end. Okay. So remember that and be ready for this next class. Survive the winter storm, and we'll see you guys then. Bye.